There are a lot of black men, and I know a few that go to the doctor, and their reason for going was because they didn't want to get nagged by their significant other. Got their name on the bottom. You know, it says Nelly, special co-host. Speak Now, Hold Your Peace. Same thing for David. They come on the show. They my number one hitter. Every time there's a shooting, people are saying, you know, we need more gun control.
Welcome to Speak Now, Hold Your Peace, a live broadcast with real conversations about community social issues, politics, business, health, self-care, and more. We broadcast live on the Speak Now, Hold Your Peace Facebook group and the Speak Now, Hold Your Peace YouTube channel. And now, here's your host, Say What I Feel, Dre.
Welcome to Speak Now, Hold Your Peace. I'm Say What I Feel, Dre, and today we are going to talk about life after prison. We're going to talk about the challenges of life after prison, some of the things that we go through, not we, but people who get out of prison, some of the things that they go through. It's not an easy thing. Freedom doesn't really mean that you're free, but we're going to talk about that. But you know, I can't do it alone. Y'all know I say the same old thing. Y'all know I can't do it alone. Got to have my people here. So I got four people here today. I got four guests today. I got the two heavy hitters. I got my man Mukhtar. I got my man James. I'm excited about this episode. Y'all know Nelly. Y'all know David. But y'all don't know James. James, that cool type, man. You can tell. You can look at him right now. He real laid back, you know, real smooth type brother, you know. I could tell, you know, when he get upset, he just talk the same old way. He Teflon. Yeah. He Teflon. Then I got my man Mukhtar. That man, look, let me tell you something, man. When I was a kid, right? You know, everybody says, you know, I was a bad kid. I wasn't a bad kid, but, you know, got to a lot of fights. And there's one particular person, kid I got into a fight with all the time. Like, it was always me and Craig. Big up to Craig. I must have fought Craig about 5 or 6 times. And I had a lot of fights, right? But out of all those fights I had, this brother Mukhtar fights more for y'all than he'll do for himself, than Sugar Ray Leonard, than anybody else, man. That's he's a fighter. You know what I'm saying? When I say fight, I mean fighting for, you know, social justice. You can catch him on some of the videos I see on YouTube. YouTube. So I want to welcome him. I want to welcome James. I want to welcome Dave. I want to welcome Nelly. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Hey, what's happening?
Peace and blessings. Glad y'all could make it through. I ain't gonna waste no time, man. I just want to get on with this. I want to get to some questions. We're gonna cover a lot of stuff, and some of the questions I ask, it may be the same question in a different way. So excuse me if it is, because, you know, I get a little hyped about this particular subject. But let's start with I want to start with everybody. I want everybody's answer on this one. And I'll start. I guess I'll start with you, Mukhtar. Do you think the system is designed to fail inmates, former inmates who come out of prison?
Yes, I'll say that. It's definitely designed to fail a prison population leaving, and I'll say that because of the lack of resources that are given to a person leaving out of those situations. Out of those situations, we'll see that a bunch of punitive efforts are put in place to keep you corrected, but there's no progressive resources put in place to keep you economically on your feet.
Got you. What about you, David?
I mean, I think without a doubt, but I think if we kind of go back a little bit, the 13th Amendment, you know, and the 15th Amendment is something a lot of people don't really understand, that when it comes that prior to the Civil War, the population of the United States in prison was mostly white men, right? And then after the Civil War, when, you know, because, you know, obviously the slaves were slaves, but after the Civil War, the population became mostly black men, right? And then eventually black females later. So, you know, there's a financial incentive for the United States government to lock up as many people as they can, and to try to get them locked up once they get back out as many as they can. So then if you can accept that premise, and then you go after, okay, well, who's going to be the easiest to lock up? All you got to do is look at the black and brown folks, because we don't have access to the resources to fight the proper legal battles, to stay out of jail. And then this is where then you get the merry-go-round where brothers back out on the street and they get back in again because there's nothing out on the street for them, and that's also by design.
Right, right. What about you, Nelly?
Good job.
Oh, can't hear you, Nelly. Uh-oh. Nelly, I'm gonna have you just log out and just log back on. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, I sure
Yep.
can. Nice and
Yep.
clear.
There we
Go
go.
ahead. I'm
Yes,
I
sorry
had a
about that.
mute button.
Sorry
Who would
about
have known?
that.
Sorry, everyone. Yes, the system is set up to fail. They don't. I agree with Muta. They don't give um, the folks coming out the proper resources nor the proper follow up. If I've been in jail for 20 years, I've missed the cell phone. I've missed how to operate the cell phone. It's a touch screen, it's a computer. I missed the whole computer laptop age. What are they doing to follow up to ensure that these citizens now get the resources that they need to be productive citizens? They just
Right,
give them a paper and say, there you go,
right,
which allows a lot of our citizens to be returned citizens because
right,
there's no follow up. Don't give me a piece of paper and say, go
right.
check with me. So absolutely, they fail. They don't set them up for success.
Wow. And what
Mm,
about you, James?
mm. Yes, sir. Absolutely. This is a well needed conversation. I appreciate everybody on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. The system is definitely a pipeline to prison, and I stand before you in a generational sense of the word because I'm 70 years old, right? And my dad is about to be 90, and he's having the same conversation with me that I'm having with my grandchildren now. Uh, so, with that being said, my focus right now with the system is uh, uh, the tools that are available to those that wish to do us harm, and that is collateral consequences of being endowed with a felony arrest. And there are 46,000 collateral consequences that are directly attached to a felony conviction for a citizen returning to society. 32,000 of those are related to employment. So, an individual like me that served time in prison when I came home from Vietnam in the 70s, and then I went on into the 80s because my whole being was hijacked by substance abuse. I'm going to leave that part right there, but get back to incarceration. The criminal justice system is set up, and it's becoming so obvious. So, uh, with me being 70, the way I look at it, it's good for me to be able to see that happening now. The first time I did prison, the whole, because I did prison time in Virginia on road camps, and that's where I first encountered the whole as a box.
Mm.
The first time I saw one, it was a ground, but they had stopped using that. But because it was such an antiquated old, they call them stick camps, where prisoners are on the road. They just changed the name. Like we went from being old to senior citizens, if you get my drift.
Mhm.
Mm.
So, they just changed the name, the narrative of the piece of equipment they used to suppress us so awfully. And so so many occasions, they're reaching into the womb now to be able to suppress people. So, in answer to your question, not to hijack, but yes, I know for it's scientifically been proven. It's just that people are for the most part coming awake. They're coming aware now, and when the suffering affect Johnny from up in the who is of a different skin tone, then they want to fix the system. But Martin Luther King says the debilitating drug of gradualism is what we're being fed.
Right.
And
Right.
Mm,
I'm
say
with
that
any
again.
movement that's trying to kind of right this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because with crack, I say this all the time, with crack, it was just in our neighborhoods, but as soon as it started affecting um white people, it was like it was a problem, like it was a you know now it's something that we need to pay attention to.
It was no longer a moral character failure.
Right.
It's a
Right.
disease now.
Yeah, it's
But
Right.
when I
exactly.
first put heroin in my body, I was a dope fiend.
Right.
That's what
Mhm.
they was called. I was a junkie.
Mhm.
I was a person
Now,
of low
now it's called
character,
pain
low moral
management.
standards.
Yeah.
Now it's
Now,
called
so
pain management.
now, and because, come on, brother, that's right. So what
Yeah.
happened? I mean, but
Yep.
the problem that they're having now is people like me are living through the, because I was on Springfield Avenue when the riots broke out in the '60s, all up and down. So that's where and so this is like, for me, this is like my third or fourth rodeo. But the
Wow.
system, yeah, man, the system. I can see the subtle changes, but damn, I don't want my. I'm a great grandfather,
Right.
and I got a great grandson that's black.
Right. Muta, let me ask you this.
So we gotta get up. We got to.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Muta. When you got out, because you said you was incarcerated, what was your biggest challenge?
After serving 7 years in prison, I came home to a different world. The
Mhm.
world that I left wasn't the same world that I was living in as a 26-year-old boy. And I entered into a world that I wasn't ready for on a bunch of different levels as far as things that could have been provided. Let's i.e. one, housing.
Mhm.
Housing as a young black man coming home with a drug record, you can't get housing. You can't get money when it come to welfare. You could just get a couple food stamps. So trying to figure out how I was going to put myself in any position to function as a man in society was difficult within itself. How am I going to take this job that I know is trying to underpay me, give me $12 an hour, and I know that I can't afford no apartment making $12 an hour.
Exactly.
Um, at
Mhm.
33, what job can I get? Because I left when I was 26. So at 33 now, what job can I get that's going to afford me with some comfortability as a 33-year-old man with a family?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. David, I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah,
No,
well,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm listening.
Mm.
No, I just want to say on what he said. So the Ban the Box is this movement that's out now where they basically is advocates, is former felons. Everybody is trying to get on board with forcing private industry to stop on a job application on the first level when they're filtering out jobs to put this question that says, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Now, a lot of people think that the ban the box movement is just that. Okay, well, if somebody's been convicted of a crime, that the employer never finds out about it. That's not true. That's not what they're going for. What they're saying is that they found out that when somebody checks that box, that's the first thing that the employer. Those are the first questions that the employers throw in the trash. So the ban
Mm.
the box movement, and it's only in 13 states and the District of Columbia, to where they're saying that, okay, let the person get through. If they get offered an interview or if they get a job offer, then at that point they have to disclose to the employer that, okay, well, I did some time, and at that point in time they can now tell the employer all the other circumstances, how long ago it was, how young they was, the circumstances that surrounded the incarceration, because all those matter, But a box, you're not hiring a box, you're hiring a person.
Right.
But
Right.
it's real
Right.
out there as far as what he's saying.
Yeah, I had one of my friends who was incarcerated. He got out. He did pretty good for himself when he got out. But there was a point where he was trying to get health insurance, and he did it online. And you have to check the boxes, and then it asked him, did he have any criminal convictions? He said yes, and then all of a sudden popped up a window. At this time, you are not something. You're not eligible for insurance. So I'm like, well, damn. If we ain't eligible for health insurance, like how are we supposed to get housing or a job? And
We're
I
not.
We're not.
We're
you know what I'm
not
saying?
because it's a big business. Prison is a huge business, right?
Oh, tell me about it.
Because my best friend who I golf with is on the board of directors, or he owns the company where the prisons get commissary from. But I'm the judge that locks black men. So if I lock up these black men and the commissary has to come through your business, right?
Right.
I get paid, you get paid, we friends. It's prison. I worked for a company and I didn't even know. I kept looking at the invoice like, what is this? Where this company supplied the magazine and books to the prisons.
Mm.
Because I kept saying, well, what
Wow.
what is this? What are these people? What are these numbers? What are these lists? And that's when they told it. I said, oh, interesting. So then I look on the board of directors, right? And the
Hmm.
owner of the company I used to work for was on the board of directors, but his first cousin was a judge in Virginia.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
First
That's
cousin.
crazy.
So the
Yeah,
more you
you
lock
can't make
up,
this stuff up.
you can't. So the more you lock up these people, right? You refer you the prison, right, who's owned by somebody at the country club that we go to, it's a tunnel of money.
Right.
So
Wow.
Yeah.
why would I rehabilitate you? Why would I have resources to give you coming out? Because I really don't want you to make it. I want you to get so fed up with working at Chick-fil-A for 14.50 and having to have a roommate at your adult life, right? I want
Mm.
you to be stuck in a room because I done already put you in a room for 7 years. So you already know how to breathe. I don't want you to be dependent. I want you to fall back, go back to the streets, make that money. We gonna lock you up and I'm gonna get paid. It's it's
Hmm.
it's so unfortunate and it's so sad because it happens a lot. And it's because it's a big business. So why
Right.
should I focus about into rehabilitation? Why should I?
Wow. Wow. Yeah. James, how was it for you? What was your biggest challenge when you got out, James?
My biggest challenge was finding a job that would even allow me to get car insurance.
Oh, you couldn't get
The
car
job,
insurance?
Wow.
well, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't
Okay,
afford it.
got you. Okay, got you.
Both things. I had to
Okay.
buy, have somewhere to. But one of the main challenges was getting out was heroin addiction for me.
Hmm.
That was like the engine that kept me going for like almost 3 decades in terms of my behavior. But I was a Vietnam veteran, combat veteran. I am a Vietnam combat veteran. I had been to a war and was in prison before I turned 21.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's stuff in between that. I went to war when I was 17. Went to Vietnam when I was 18. I came home. I got out of the army. I was out of the army not even a year before I went to prison.
Hmm.
So but the drugs was put in my community, up on 10th Street and Springfield Avenue, Holland Street, around that area in the 60s, the early 60s. So when I went into the army, I had already used heroin multiple times as a young teenager. So when I went in the army, went to Vietnam, it just exacerbated that condition. But
Wow.
fast forward to prison, when I got out, I was given a parole officer. Hello. And I survived him probably 8 months, and then I went back again.
Hmm.
I think it probably took me 11 years to do eight,
Wow.
if
Wow.
you get my drift, because
Yeah.
I couldn't
Right, right.
find employment. I kept, I was in the recidivism. I was on that loop. I was in that loop. So we doing a generational show here with mass incarceration.
Mm.
And what I see is, I see we're stuck. They get you stuck in a place where they start giving carrots. So now they got alternative sentencing, and so that's creating a whole nother industry with the bracelets and the monitors and
In the
everything. And
weekends,
so
yeah. In the
it's
weekends,
Right,
definitely
right,
a lot
right.
of
yeah,
skullduggery in
yeah.
the weekend going on, but there's no. It's got to be an inside job. It was an inside job for me, but it
Right,
wasn't easy
right, right,
because by me being a Vietnam veteran, I had a safety net. I could always go into the VA hospitals,
right,
but my
right,
mind's all jacked up. So
right.
when I come out, I either go to jail or I become homeless,
Mhm.
or I was
Mm.
just a non-functioning person in that respect. But somehow through all of that, I found some validity in myself, and so I've been advocating for prisons and going out in the street over 10,000 days is how long I've been in recovery. And I
Mm.
say it that way because it just in a moment they can put me back in jail.
Right, right,
I mean, if I go to the wrong person, something to the wrong person at the wrong time of day as a black man, I'm gone, and
right.
and it's so I think it's inherent upon us to make our way into the courtrooms, Muta.
Yeah.
We gotta go stand up in them courtrooms, man. I like what the brother was saying. He was marching. I'm 70 now, so I'm a little jealous of the activity of the limbs that you guys got. But I
That's when I
bring
was a
something
teenager.
else to the table. I got a lot of years,
Yeah.
man.
Mutai,
Got a lot of years up and down them
Yes,
streets,
yes.
man. But I'm back in here, and I'm ready to go to work.
let me just say something real quick, cause I just her comment. Raven, thanks for supporting, man. She said this is real interesting and it's an eye opener so far. And when she says eye opener, I was Mutai, I was looking at you when he said about when James said something about the drugs being placed in the street for us to fail. What's your thought on that? Like, government and stuff like that putting drugs on the
All right.
street.
All right. Good. This. All right. Good segue for a history lesson. Um. Prior to heroin coming to the United States of America, it was used in Asia as a military attack to subdue the population, and it worked. It was successful. They wrote books about it. So that's i.e. Fast forward, our leaders, Malcolm X's, our Martin Luther Kings, our Stokely's, the slew of leaders that were assassinated in this particular time period. Our OG just got finished talking about the riots that occurred. Newark was one of those cities that rioted. So getting to the intentional military attack, which is the drug epidemic, which led into another punitive attack, which was the war on drugs, which led to mass incarceration. So there's a bunch of charts and diagrams that's and information that's out there that can show people, any of the listeners that want to do any due diligence to see the level of incarceration from the 50s to the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, and they can see that number doubling and tripling every year when it relates to young black men. Young black bodies have been the fuel that drives the prison industrial system. And understanding that it is a prison industrial system, I don't see how we continue as a black demographic fault the people who have been subjected to it.
Right, right.
Right, right.
Yep.
What's your thoughts, David, Nelly?
No, go ahead, Nelly.
She took a breath. I mean, y'all better
I,
get ready. I'm telling
no,
you.
no, 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 no.
Do it. Now, I'm
I'm
all for it. I'm here
no,
for it.
no, no, no. I believe, and I truly feel the drugs were put here to either put us in jail or take or to break up our homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
because when you look back, although there's always been crime, there's always been drugs, right? There was always a family unit in the black communities. It was a
Mm-hmm.
unit, no matter what it looked like. The unit got completely destroyed when drugs got put specifically placed in our neighborhoods. So either it sent our men or our women to jail or sent our men and women away from the homes to break up, to allow kids to grow up and not have that unit again. Now mom is working a job or two because daddy is out, he's strung out, he's high, or dad's in jail, or vice versa. Um,
Or dead.
or dead,
Right.
to support the business. And when you break up a unit like that and you put a heavy amount of pressure on a parent or an aunt or a grandmother, you lose sight of the kids. So now it allows our kids to go out in the streets and be buck wild, right? Because grandma worked 2 jobs and she went to Bible study and she came home and she's tired. And now she has my mom's 3 kids because my mom is strung out and my daddy's in jail. So you lose sight of the kids and then they become the streets. And the streets are enticing, whether it's a young girl going out with the drug dealer boy or a young girl getting money. It's just horrible. It's a vicious cycle, but they broke up our community
Mm.
totally.
Wow.
And it's deep, right? It's deep. And then we get a girl, she gets pregnant by the drug dealer guy, and then now I go to get welfare and I can't even move him into my house. I can't put him on I can't put my child's father on a birth certificate because if I tell, right,
Right.
they coming after you because I'm getting food stamps and they want their money from me.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's a break.
Yeah.
It's a total break. And unless the community gets back again, um when these men come out or when these women come out, when they come, my mother was a product. I tell anybody, my mother was a part of the crack epidemic. We lost my mother, and my father was from Yonkers because I'm from the Bronx, and my father smoked angel dust. So
Mm.
I had 2 parents this
Mm.
way and 2 grandmas. And so it's either become to the streets or figure out what I want to do. But it's disheartening, right? Because you don't get what you need. So you have to have a community. I had a
Mm.
nephew who got locked up as an adult, straight out of high school. He got locked up as an
Mhm.
adult. He wanted to go to the Navy. Well, that wasn't happening no more, right? Because he got locked up in the Commonwealth and it was a felony. So now
Mm.
my nephew can't go to school to become what he wants to become, right? Because he can't get financial aid because they ask you that question. And you got to check that
Wow.
box.
Wow.
So do we defer his dreams or do we come together as a community and say, we're going to pay this tuition one way or another for you to go to Christopher Newport and we're going to help you win? And it's a lot of digging. It's a lot of finding jobs that accept felons. It's tough. It is hard. It can be
Mm.
done, but you have to have a team. If Brother Mutar comes out and he don't have a special lady or a grandma or an aunt riding for him, right? He's discouraged. I'm back to the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And it's a big business. And drugs is right there. Forget stealing and boosting. Drugs is right there for Brother Mutar to grab and make his money and get him an apartment and pay the extra fees. Because you know, everybody can live in an apartment. But if you don't have the credit,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget
Can't
one
get it.
thing in New Jack City, and I only say it because it's a point. It's not like I mean, New Jack City is about as real as it comes. Nino Brown says there's 2 things. He said there's no poppy fields in Harlem, right? And he says ain't no Uzis made in Harlem. So here's the crazy part about it. In recent years, I've heard something over and over again, and it doesn't get a lot of play, but I've heard rappers, I've heard the game say it, I've heard rappers in Chicago say it, and I've heard guys in New York say it. He says that if you go in the hood, any inner city place where we are, at certain days of the week, like on a Wednesday, mysteriously there'll be like a package, a box of guns will appear, and it's like it's almost like clockwork. And a couple of the rappers, I think the game in LA said it, and the guy in Chicago said the same thing. So when they are consciously putting, the heroin, the crack, smack, whatever it is, the flavor of the week, not crystal meth, incidentally, because you can make crystal meth in the hood, but that's not wiping us out. It's an external substance that has been processed and brought into the hood, but that's another discussion. Between that and the guns, that's all the engine that's needed to get folks off the street into prison where they can make some money. I just want to throw this in there real quick because I looked up an article because I remember we were talking about it, and you guys in Jersey, you heard about this. There's a guy in Pennsylvania named Judge Mark Ciavarella. He sentenced 4,000 juveniles to prison, right, between 2003 and 2008. Turns out he
My
was getting
nephew.
kickbacks. Okay, here we go. He was getting kickbacks, right? Now this is how grimy he was. This guy, Ciavarella, was a judge. Him and this another judge named Conahan, they led the effort to close down the county's juvenile facility, then sent the juveniles, the people that they convicted, the kids that they convicted, sent them to two private facilities built by two of their buddies, somebody named Miracle and this other guy named Powell. And they got $2.8 million in kickbacks from these guys that own these private facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to know why this happens? It's capitalism.
It's all about the
That's
money.
the land,
Capitalism,
right? It's all about the money.
capitalism,
All
Yep.
about the money.
capitalism.
Do y'all think
Hold a second, but there is no reason for the system to be that when brothers and sisters get out of jail, for them to become productive members of society. And let me just say one thing, Dre, and I'll finish up.
Yeah, take your time. You got it.
There's an argument out there, right? And I know they mean well. White liberals say, well, it costs more to incarcerate somebody than it is to give them a job. Okay, and if you look at one set of numbers, that's fine because it's very expensive on an inmate by inmate basis to incarcerate somebody. So that's one logic, but that's not the real logic because the real logic is the state can make more money off of you selling the product of whether it's the brother that's on the roadside gang, selling their labor or producing things in jail. They make more money than it costs to incarcerate that inmate.
Yep.
It is
Wow.
literally slavery.
That's
13th
right.
Amendment. That's another discussion.
Yeah.
Wow. Do y'all think do
Mhm.
you think our current administration does enough for inmates being released from prison
No.
for life after
No.
prison?
No.
No.
Because that's one of the things that
No.
I battle with people and debated about, and it was more like their response was well, just give it some time. They just got in the current they just got in office, but it's been a year. I think something should have been signed. Some type of order should have been signed. I haven't heard much. I haven't done too much of research on it, but the little bit I've done is I haven't seen much or heard much. So I just want to know y'all thoughts on that. Like, what do you think our current administration should do? What's the problem? What's the fix for all of this? I know it's just not one thing, but what's the fix, Muta, James? What's the fix, you think? Got you mute, brother. You mute. Hold up.
I think
You're
it's
on
an
mute.
inside job. Go ahead, Muta.
I
You there?
think he
I think I think it's an inside job, and what I mean by that is we have to get inside the system. Um I read this book. I think it was The Art of War, something like that. It's the way the Chinese defeated the Japanese is to get inside their administration like a cyst or a boil or abscess
virus. Yeah.
or a miss when you're shooting some kind of drug and you get a miss. The abscess, it starts on the inside and eats its way out. So my point is we get inside the prison system with people get in there and educate and get them brothers ready to come out. And then we have to create these recovery, reentry ready communities. And what I mean by that is we have to address the stigma. We have to get rid of the box. We have to
Mm-hmm.
eliminate a lot of the fines, and there's a lot of steps that can be taken. However, the system is set up as to where when these steps begin, an antagonizer is automatically activated, if I
Mm-hmm.
can put it like that.
Right.
There's a barrier. For me, coming out of prison, I found out that once I got once my disease went into remission, and I built all the bridges that I had burned in my life, personal bridges and bridges around my credit, a lot of things. And once I built those bridges back and I looked ahead, I realized that the administration had burned down the bridges that I needed to cross to get to where I wanted to be when I first came out of prison. My aspirations and everything needed a drawbridge for me to get back to some kind of normalization. And the drawbridge would not come down unless a white person put it down. And I could almost get it down, and then they figure out that I'm a felon, and the drawbridge goes back up. So I'm stuck in these low level jobs,
Mhm.
let alone, I'm an honorable discharge veteran, Vietnam veteran, combat veteran. And they gave me a piece of paper that says I'm an honorable man, so I should be able to get hired. But I made some mistakes, but there are mitigating circumstances. Heroin addiction, the disease of addiction, is a thing that carries you places you don't want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. But when we get back, that's when we need the resources. That's when we need the help, not the handcuffs.
We need brokers.
And so
We need
that's my.
inside men.
We need.
We need
We
brokers.
need
We need
inside men.
if I am good at my job, or I know somebody who's the head of something at my job, can we broker a deal? Can we say, if 3 felons get out a day, can we sponsor 3 felons? Sponsor.
Mm.
Can we say we would commit, if 3 felons check the box here, if we like them, let's put them on probation, give them a chance. Let's give them a chance to see if they're rehab. Can we say that? You know what I mean? When we talk about diversity and inclusion, what do we talk? Are we just saying we just want Black people or minority people? We're talking about we're including everybody, all different
Everybody.
circumstances and situations. So if I have pull at my job and I talk to, can we broker these people? Then we have 3. We're brokering. And that's what we need in our communities, so that these citizens don't come back out and come back to $14 an hour. Because what is $14 an hour in the tri-state area when a studio apartment is $2,200?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just like we need these people at can they do baggage claim? They don't have to be. Can they take this the stuff off the plane? Can they get at least a minimum of $22 an hour? Because it's feasible, it's doable, but we need people in our community to be brokers, to give them what they need, or else, because it could be forever, right? Like we could be like the people on January 6th and storm the Capitol, but we not getting in because they're gonna shoot us dead before we by the time we bust the first window.
So
we don't
what
get
I've been
that.
doing,
We don't get that close.
what I've been doing lately is I've been doing efforts to hold my local officials accountable. So there's a lot of federal monies that come in these spending budgets that are allocated towards impoverished programs. But because our Black, especially in Newark, this is a Black political city. So when we have our political officials not doing what they're supposed to be doing with this money that's coming in, then now that's why I become, as a 41-year-old man. Listen, we all got to come together and do something when it relates to our falling behind populations. When it comes to those who need a little bit of extra help, whether it be somebody who came from home from prison, or somebody who's just homeless and can't figure it out right now.
Right.
I'll let, we should have that type of system in place, some type of elderhood in place, so that we can say, all right, Tommy's not getting it right. We're going to sit Tommy down. Tommy, while you're sitting it down, you might not have an apartment, but we got a room for you.
Right.
We got a room for you with some resources for you, and we're gonna figure out and help you work your way out that room. But we need to be able to put somebody some resources is important, and we need to get a handle on these resources that are coming from the federal government, because there are resources coming from the government and for these specific issues. Getting a hold of these resources, now that's the part we got to work on right now.
Right. And it's crazy because, budgeting 101, you get funds. If you're getting $25,000 for a particular program and you only use 15, the next year, guess how much you're going to get? 15.
Yeah,
You know
15.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yep.
And let me tell you one thing. We was talking about resources. Nelly, you was talking about getting inside. When I was a probation officer, let me tell you what happened. A lot of the guys got and women. They came out. They were assigned to me, and I'm just like, the first thing I'm looking at is your restitution, because you're expected to pay this, and it's just like, if you ain't got a job, I'm not violating anybody if they ain't paying restitution, if they don't have a job or the money to pay it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the
Right.
setup I'm talking about. Like, for me, I'm not violating anybody, and I never violated anybody for not paying restitution, because it's a process. Like, we got to find a job and all of that stuff. But let me tell you what I did one time. This is I don't know, I must have been in about 2-3 months in. I was like, do you think, I went to my supervisor and the chief, and I'm like, do you think we can have some type of open house seminar with businesses, so we can see what businesses would like to give some people, people who are coming out, some, a job, just to give them a start, just form a relationship, a partnership with the community. You know what they said? No. It wasn't like, well, we got to look at it. Oh, we got to look into it. We got to, that's something. It was a flat out no. And it was just like, no. Like,
what time you was at? What
I
time
was
you
I
in?
was down here in Hampton. I was a PO in Jersey too, in Cumberland County, but down here is when I asked them that.
You know
So,
why?
Wow.
They probably thought you was trying to make a political move.
probably.
Once you start asking questions on how to implement programs, that start to get into the political spectrum, you might.
And it was like,
Yeah,
and honestly, the look
no,
on their
no.
face, it was like, yo, why would you ask? Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, but
Right.
but but hold on a
Mm-hmm.
second. Let's just step back. Remember all that, because here's the thing: is when you come out, right, now again, it's a difference if you come out, whether you're on parole or you finish your full sentence, and that's a whole nother trick. But yeah, that's another discussion. But remember, when we get down to voting rights and even gun rights, okay, if you when you finish, you're supposed to be finished. There shouldn't be more penance, whether it's financial or any other additional penalties, for your crime when you get out. But the voting rights is the number one way that they have successfully blocked folks, because you got to remember, if you can't vote against you can't vote people out of office, and you can't vote people into office who are going to pass laws that's going to stop private employers from discriminating against you. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you may have half a chance in some place like Pennsylvania or maybe New York or Jersey, but when you get down here in the South, okay, this is huge population of people that cannot vote. It's people of color, because they got a record for whatever. Okay, and we know folks get targeted, so that's another discussion. But they cannot vote. So then you want to know why over times where you see areas in the South, especially in Georgia, they got these huge minority populations. But when you look at the elected officials, it's white conservatives. Is because the population can't vote, and it locks it
Yep.
in.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, the population cannot sit on juries, a jury
Yes, that is
trial.
also
The
correct.
population.
Yeah.
So it negates the idea of having a jury of your peers,
Right.
Right.
because nobody
And let's
nobody
talk
on a
about that.
jury is your peer.
And and let's talk about that. If you don't have minorities on a jury, you're more likely to get a guilty verdict. And what is that doing? That's putting more black men and women back into jail. So
That's
it,
right.
it, it all
That's right.
works towards getting us into that unpaid labor workforce that is the prison population.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna get y'all final thoughts. Go ahead. Somebody gonna say something?
No,
No,
sir.
I think
I'm
it's
gonna
Muta.
get.
Muta wanted to say something.
Yeah, around this, I'm gonna get y'all final thoughts. Before we get up out of here. I'm gonna start with you, James. What are your final thoughts? Anything you want to say? And after we get the final thoughts, I want to go to Mutar, because I want him to talk about his books. All right, so I want to put some attention on that. So, James, final thoughts.
Yeah, my final thoughts is that we pay really, really close and strict attention to the economic starvation piece and how it disrupts children's state of mind, because you come into a neighborhood and you start to display uh, these items that cost a lot of money, but then you got somebody that's just getting out of jail that doesn't make but $13 an hour, but they still want these items, Nike sneakers, a new car, whatever it is a person might want.
Mhm.
And so you just dangle those carrots in front of people by allowing people of color to have some of these things and to know, but it's just a carrot that they're dangling. And the system is corrupt in that, it is complicit, to the destruction of a race of people. The system is complicit because it's designed to keep you in prison. And that's my say.
All right, Nelly.
I think until we're able to get inside of the abscess and make it ooze out to make a change, that we have to do our due diligence and our part as citizens to
Mm,
try to
mm,
help those that we know are in need, whether they're citizens coming out for incarceration or whether there's a brother that kind of lost his livelihood and is coming out of a shelter and now is starting his life over again.
mm,
And I think if we do our parts to put the human back in humanity, our community
mm,
can slowly but surely piece their lives back together. It's interesting because I actually just started a nonprofit. I finally just got everything, my articles of organization, and it's set up, and it's called like Feels Like Home, for women and men that are in
mm,
shelters that are moving into their new apartments from the shelter and getting them the items that they need to make this shell feel like home. And for me, that's huge. It's if we have a brother who's been sleeping out underneath the Third Street bridge and at the Third Street Tunnel Bridge in DC in a tent, and he's been in a horrible shelter. Now he's transitioned to a home. How does he get the things that he needs to make it feel like home? If I give him the basic necessities to make this place feel like home, will that give him the courage and the strength to get out and say, and now I can wash my clothes and now I can go apply for a job? But I keep in contact with him, right? And I give him leads. What are your, I send a survey because that's my part. Because I want to see my Black community be who I know we are. It's not
mm.
just a small it's in all of us, but we
Right.
just have to have those people and those resources to try to push us forward. So until we able to get in the Capitol and crack it open, if we just do our part slowly but surely, I think we can make a difference.
All right. And what's the name of that nonprofit again? I just wanted to make
Feels like feels like home.
feels like home. All right,
Yep.
y'all heard it.
You got a website?
Yep.
You got a website?
I'm
Plug the
I'm
website.
working on it. I'm
All right.
working on it. So
And
hopefully Saturday it'll be up and I'll send it to both
well,
of you
you know
guys
we're
so you
gonna
can
come
check
back
it out.
on here and talk about your nonprofit. You know that's a given. Dave, final
Yeah.
Yeah.
thoughts.
Real quick, and I want to give Muda as much time as we can. I just to say, and this is kind of to piggyback what Kel said. We have to go back to the African model. I mean, we've only been in this country for less than 400 years. Most of us. If we all took a DNA test, you'll find that we all come from the pretty much the same part of Western Africa, Cameroon, and Nigeria. At the end of the day, and Malcolm X was good in saying this, and even Martin Luther King before the end, we are responsible for us. And it's not to say that we can't accept help from other folks, but until our community says, okay, wait a minute, the only people that's going to look out for us, the only that's going to take care of us is us, then we're still gonna sit back and expect an external force that's going to try to stop this cycle of violence, this school to prison pipeline. It's not gonna stop as long as the external forces, have that we're looking for help, has a financial incentive. So until we do that, this is where we be. And yes, I definitely want to hear about this nonprofit, and I
Yes.
want to hear about the website. I got a web
Yes.
hosting business.
All
Okay, go
right.
ahead, Buddha, take us home.
We'll tell you final thoughts, and then we're gonna talk about the book.
All right, peace and blessings. All right, so just on my experiences coming out of prison after serving so much time, it would what I'm currently doing in my community is I'm pouring out educational programs. So I opened up a community center Alkaline Express, and I started to do social experiments in my neighborhood inside Newark in the Velsburg area. And I'm realizing that, like you said, like we've been echoing all night, is that we as a people need wraparound service. We need that village. We need that community. This is who we was. We a spirit. We come from a spiritual people, a communal people, and that never died out of us. That they didn't beat that out of us. It's just that we're trying to adapt to this capitalistic system, and it's going to take some people who's going to have to say, well, I can't take a vacation this year because I have to put some resources to the community, or my family might have to lose some time because I have to put some time into building a community. My household is not more important than my community. My household is involved. It's all a part. The part is never greater than the whole. And once we start finding other people who have that same amount of passion, because like the brother just said, this is it, we are in charge of us. So even though we got minimum resources, nobody's no since I've been born, nobody's coming to say, oh, you guys are doing so bad. What they'll do is point fingers at who else is doing bad so that we could give our limited resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to in Newark, for what I'm trying to do is create a situation so that the people who made it, the people who made it out the hood, these our engineers, our doctors, our lawyers, they have a place to come back where they say, I know it's somebody in this community center with integrity. This community is bought and paid for by the community, so
Mm-hmm.
that I have somewhere to put my resources in, because I know that when I send my nephew, because he can't get right. My nephew can't get right. He just came home. He been in and out of prison. But if I send him here, they got a CDL course. They got a carpentry course. And I know that the young lady, she has a nonprofit. So she's going to be doing work, and she means it. So she's
Mm-hmm.
going to be doing work to really help these people get in the places they need to get to. So I believe that conversations like this, um, it needs to keep on happening. People like, I'm tired of talking. No, this is how we etch things out. This is how we find out who's serious and who's not serious, who's willing to put in the work. And we need to keep on opening up these type of platforms, brother. I definitely enjoy your show. I enjoy all the intellectual property, and you guys have helped me learn a lot. My brother was talking about the '70s and the riot. So even though I didn't know my mother for that long, he reminds me of what she would have been watching the tanks go up and down Springfield Avenue.
Wow.
Mm.
Right. Wow.
And so just understanding that I'm listen. I just want to do my part. I just want to do my part. Whatever that part is, I'm gonna make sure I'm accountable.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
sir. Yes, sir. Tell us about the book, brother.
All right, so I'm a children's book author,
Oh.
and I've that was one of my things when I came home to make myself. I One thing, I needed to open up a cup. So if somebody wanted to send me a blessing out, how would they do it? Would I be able to receive a big blessing if it was one that was obliged to? If Oprah called me and said, tomorrow, come on my show, would I have something that would be able to sell, that I would be actually able to help my community? So right now, what I do is I put out the children's book. Also able to so the first children's book I put out was Monsters Under the Bed. It's a book about to help kids that are scared of the dark. So it's to let us know that we're not monsters, and we can use our imaginations as dangerous as our imaginations are when we don't know things. If we use things as imaginative aids, it can help us. So I used to be afraid of the dark. So I used to believe that monsters was under the bed. But as soon as my imagination turned monsters into something that was there for me, something friendly, now I'm not afraid of the dark no more. So so now just ABCs with Shuja Farmer. That's another book that I put out. This book was geared towards the plant-based community because I met a couple plant-based people in my community center, and that's all I'm about. I'm about doing business with teamwork make a dream work to me. So once I found out that I had a black farmer in my community, I said, hold up, because Shuja Farmer is the actual farmer. So learn the ABCs with Shuja Farmer. I incorporated an actual real person who's educated in the field and said, all right, let's create a learning tool. Because eventually I want this to go inside the school curriculums so that I'm able to have a bigger cup, so I'm able to pour into the community.
Wow, that's good stuff, man. That's good
All
stuff.
right.
Yeah,
All right.
appreciate it. I appreciate it, brother. So that's gonna be it, y'all. I mean, I got a lot from this. I enjoyed it. Everybody, I thank you for coming on. Y'all stay on once we get off. Let me see that book, Ty. Okay. Let me zoom. Hold up, brother. Let me get in on that. Keep that up. Y'all see the book right there, right? All
Dre,
right.
we need to put it on the Facebook page, man.
Yes, definitely,
Yeah.
man. We're gonna put that on the Facebook page. We're gonna blow this whole thing up because you know we gotta support, man. We gotta support.
Right.
And I think I'm gonna go ahead and get the book. I ain't afraid of the dark or what's under the bed anymore. But then again, maybe I am. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm in the South. We got snakes down here, so maybe I might be a little scared of what's under the bed. You know what I'm saying?
Here in the South, the darkness is a metaphor, kind of like how the trees bear strange fruit.
Yeah. But yo, thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate everybody. Everybody, y'all stay on. We're gonna get out of here. Peace and love. Love y'all to death, man. We out of here. Peace.
Thank you for watching the Speak Now Hold Your Peace live broadcast. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and join us on the Speak Now Hold Your Peace Facebook group.